I was 8 years old when I first encountered fear in a way I could not yet understand. It was a crisp, sunny Saturday morning, and my mother had taken me to Kmart, a place that had always felt ordinary, safe, and bright. The air smelled of detergent, new clothes, and a faint undertone of wax polish from the floor tiles, blending into a strange, comforting scent. I remember holding a pale pink dress in my small hands, the fabric soft and slightly stiff, as if it were waiting for a special moment, my birthday just around the corner. My mother had been smiling, scanning through racks, giving me space to explore while keeping one eye on the rest of the store. I felt joy and innocence, the kind that comes before the world begins to show its hidden dangers. I stepped into one of the fitting rooms, my small body dwarfing the space, even as I tried to twirl in front of the mirror. The fluorescent lights were bright, cold, reflecting every movement, every small detail, every crease of the fabric I held close. I remember brushing my hair out of my eyes, giggling softly at my own reflection, trying to imagine myself at the party I would soon attend. Then I heard it. A subtle click, barely audible at first but unmistakable. The door handle moved. My stomach dropped. My small hands froze midair, clutching the door as I pressed against it instinctively. "Occupied," I said, my voice small and shaky. My words barely felt like protection, but it was all I had. The door pushed against me slowly, almost deliberately. I remember the low, dry chuckle that followed, a sound that made the air in the fitting room feel heavier, colder. Then a voice, a man's voice, low and controlled, said, "Sorry, wrong room." But I knew even at that age that it was a lie. The tone lacked any true apology. It was precise, calculated, confident. I caught a glimpse of his face, a man in his 40s, wearing a worn blue cap that shadowed his eyes. He smirked faintly. There was no warmth in it, no hesitation, only the faintest hint of satisfaction. Then finally he left. I exhaled shakily, almost forgetting how to breathe, my tiny chest heaving as I stepped out. My mother noticed immediately. Her eyes widened, and her lips parted, forming a question she didn't ask. "Are you okay, sweetie?" she said gently. I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel. I couldn't tell her. How could I? At 8, I didn't have the words, and I certainly didn't have the courage. So I buried it, deep inside, letting it fester silently, a secret etched into my small bones. Years passed. I moved through childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood, carrying that secret fear with me. Fitting rooms, narrow hallways, the sudden accidental touch of a stranger. These things still made my heart race. I couldn't explain why, and sometimes I felt ashamed of the intensity of my reaction. How could a moment so fleeting in my childhood have such a hold over me? Yet it did. It lingered, shaping the woman I was becoming in ways I did not yet fully understand. In high school, I became quieter. I avoided tight spaces whenever I could. I kept my head down in crowded areas, avoiding eye contact with strangers. I was constantly alert, sometimes paranoid, though I never admitted it to anyone. My parents noticed only that I was cautious, perhaps unusually so, but they never guessed the shadow I carried inside me. Then I became a mother. My daughter was born on a rainy spring morning, and from the moment I held her, I felt a fierce, protective love that I hadn't known existed. One afternoon, when she was just 5 years old, we went to a small clothing store. She ran ahead, giggling, a bundle of energy and innocence, picking out a dress for her preschool recital. I followed at a distance, watching her little hands as she brushed hair behind her ears, admiring herself in the mirrors. Then I noticed him, a man lingering near the fitting rooms, moving too slowly, looking too deliberately at the children trying on clothes. My stomach sank. The memory of Kmart, the door, the hand, the smirk, hit me all at once, a visceral, immediate recognition. My heart raced. My chest tightened. I wanted to shrink, to disappear, to become invisible. But instead, a surge of something powerful rose within me. Not fear this time, but action. I stepped forward, my voice firm though it trembled slightly. "Sir," I said, projecting every ounce of authority I could muster. "Do you need something?" He paused. He looked at me, startled, and then without a word, he turned and walked away. I remained beside the fitting room until my daughter emerged, unaware of the shadow that had nearly touched her. And in that moment, I understood. I was no longer the little girl in Kmart. I was a mother, a guardian, a protector. I could not erase the past, but I could stop it from touching her. That night, I spoke about it for the first time. To my husband. I had never told anyone the whole story. I paused often, my voice catching, as the weight of years pressed down on me. I cried, not for the moment itself, but for all the years I had carried it silently. I cried for the girl I once was, for the fear that had shaped me in ways I had not fully realized. I began to write. At first, just for myself. I wrote about doors and spaces that could feel safe one moment and threatening the next. I wrote about silence, guilt, and the invisible burdens women carry. I wrote about fear, and eventually, I wrote about strength. Strength born not from invulnerability, but from the courage to face the fear again and again, and to act anyway. Through my writing, I reflected on all the lessons hidden within fear. I remembered the moments of childhood. A scraped knee, a playground too crowded, a teacher's stern look that felt like disapproval. I remembered adolescence. The whispered jokes, the sideways glances, the pressure to blend in, to be invisible. And I remembered adulthood. The awareness that the world still carried dangers that could not always be seen. The responsibility of protecting my child while navigating my own unresolved trauma. I shared my story slowly, first with friends, then online cautiously. Every response, every note of empathy, reminded me I was not alone. So many women carry invisible scars, hidden fears, and silent stories, yet we survive. We endure. We teach, protect, and advocate. And in that endurance, we find quiet, unshakable power. Now when my daughter asks, "Mommy, can I go change by myself?" I smile softly. I sit nearby, not as a jailer, but as a presence of reassurance, a quiet protector. I teach her what I learned the hard way. Vigilance is not paranoia, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. Sometimes I think about that man in Kmart. I wonder if he remembers at all. Probably not. But I carry the memory. I have transformed it. What was once a source of fear has become a source of awareness, vigilance, and resilience. The fitting room changed my childhood. It etched fear into my being, but it also sowed the seeds of strength. The little girl cornered in silence became a woman who could rise, act, and protect. I learned that power is quiet. Courage is subtle. And sometimes, it is the presence beside a child's dressing room door, the whispered lesson, the soft reassurance that fear can be faced and overcome. The fitting room taught me lessons I could never unlearn. Vulnerability, caution, silence, and ultimately, the resilience to protect myself and others. I am no longer that frightened little girl. I am a mother, a storyteller, a guardian. And through this, I have found peace. Fear may always be part of me, but it no longer defines me. I walk through the world with awareness, strength, and compassion. And perhaps someday, that will be enough.